Welcome to the Pro MFG Leadership Turf powered by Cisco and Proactive. The theme for the panel discussion is tackling digital business transformation, and we look forward to a very insightful discussion today. Thank you to all the esteemed panelists and the moderator for sparing time from their busy schedule and joining us today. I would now like to welcome Mr. Nitin Kumar Sharma from Proactive to do the context settings for today's panel discussion. Over to you.
A very good evening to everyone, and I have got Sharik also with me.
Good evening, everyone.
It's a privilege to be along with you. Mr. Rajiv Kumar was supposed to, address you, but because of certain, he was not able to make it up. So I am just representing Proactive. Just to highlight, as Ramya said, talking about the digitization which is happening across the world. It has been found that on an average, every individual, be it you and me, is carrying almost approximately 12 applications on its mobile. So on an average, so that is the strength which is touching our, be it our personal life, be it our professional life, and in our day in and out works that we typically do. And that's the power of software which has impacted us all in our, be it, as I said, in our daily up and down and the lives that we live in. Having said that, my name is Nitin. I've been with Proactive for more than 21 years now. Proactive is a gold partner with Cisco, and we specialize in the area of data center. We have done some of the largest data centers across India, be it Wipro Technologies, be it HCL Technologies, in Bangalore and across India. We have done some of the biggest deployments for them. We have got customers like Global Logic. We have got customers like Sapient, Fidelity Investment, Motherson Sumi, Codient. These are few of our customers, ICICI Bank. These are few of the customers where we have helped our customers to see that their digitization drive is met in terms of just not implementation, even in terms of adoption. We are based out of Delhi as our head office. We are based out of Bangalore, Pune, Chennai, Mumbai, Singapore. We are approximately more than 300 people as of now, and we have done as already the stage is set for the digitization. So what we strongly feel is that Cisco's Intersight is a product to reckon up, which has solved a lot of organization in terms of their orchestration, and it has helped a lot of customer to see that their costing and the orchestration is done in a judicious way. We have done most of the Intersight deployments across India, and which has helped our customers to see that their business requirements are met and the line of business is also achieved. So this is as of now for Proactive. Other than that, Ramya, if I'll pass on this so that the session can start and we have a more of an interactive session.
Nitin, I would now like to welcome and introduce our all-star panel speakers today who have joined us and our moderator for the evening.
At Pro MFG, Cisco, and they are giving us a chance to have this webinar and along with that, good session on discussion with industry experts. Today's topic is tackling digital business transformator. And I'm going to just invite each of the panelists to start with their open comments. So, Mr. Jayram Iyer, what, according to you, is business transformation from a perspective of digital? What are its components? How do you break it up? What were your opening comments, and how do you enable that for your company? Mr. Jayram Iyer?
Thank you. It's a very. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
It's a very interesting question. And again, to answer, the most important thing, which I think is, you got to align yourself with the business goals and objectives. Okay, any of the endeavor that you take. How does it improve? What are the key drivers for improvement? Would it be strategic? Is it financial, or is it customer focused? It's very important. I mean, till some time back, IT and business were not. I mean, IT was looked just as an enabler, not anymore. It's a key driver, and that's why you got to work very closely with the business team to help them achieve their goals and work alongside them as such. The area of, again, digital transformation. This is an area which everyone loves to talk about. It's the buzzword. But you know, you got to get the building blocks right. And to get the building blocks also right, you got to align yourself with your CFOs and your CEOs, work alongside them very closely together on that. What would be those building blocks that you get to get them right from day? That's something which we could talk as we move later into the conversation. But where I would like to start is you got to be very, very sensitive and alive to the business needs and the company, able to bring up change and transformation to the business as such.
Thank you, sir, for your opening comments. I agree. You have
Hello.
to be very sensitive and aligned. Can you hear me? Am I audible? Am I audible?
We can hear you.
Yeah, okay. So thank you, sir, for your opening comments. I completely agree that you have to be sensitive and aligned with the business needs. IT was an enabler and become a business driver, and the building blocks is aligned with the CFOs and CTOs. From that, thank you, Mr. Jayram, for your opening comments. I will now take it to Ankur. Mr. Ankur, for your opening comments on driving digital business transformation. Mr. Ankur.
Yes, Mr. Burgess.
Yes, please.
Okay, the internet is probably on the topic. Am I still audible?
Yes, you are. Your opening comments on the topic.
Yes. So for me, I think I will just start with a little bit of background where I am coming from today. So I work for MongoDB, which is a next generation database company. And one of the major aspects that's on is moving India island all the time. And if I find common across all these territories is that the CIOs have the mind share, or the cloud is the top of the mind share for the CIOs, right? They're always thinking about which services will they be moving to the cloud and which services will stay on-prem. So they have to think about they have to think about they want to stay in touch with their customers. So they want to ensure that the data goes securely and safely onto the and their members of the organization are able to access that and they are able to access that without their customers as well as their internal people to access the data, right? So actually compliant with all the different norms that the industry asks them to. So I think for the main considerations that they think about moving to the cloud are security, safety, and how they are able to get the data to the hands of their people more easily. Yeah.
Thanks, Ankur, for your opening comments. How to move to the cloud more securely, more safely, how to see what remains on-prem while taking care of the compliance requirements. Thank you for your opening comments, Ankur. Let me go to Sudheer. Sudheer from Sequoia, you are in the business of actually helping so many companies come on get business transformation. What are your opening comments on the topic?
Am I audible? Just want to check.
Yes,
now. Yeah, so I will probably try to answer it a little differently. I see business, a business is just as an interaction, today's business as an interaction with stakeholders, whether it's customers, suppliers, employees, your investors. If it's Sequoia, they're investors. There are like portfolio companies. And you have communities and you have creditors and whatnot. So you have your important stakeholders all around you, and you want to actually do business with them. interact with them. To me, digital transformation is all about experience. How are they interacting with your business today, and how do you change the experience of the stakeholder using digital technologies, whether it's cloud, AI, ML, whatever it is. So to me, digital transformation is empowering all your stakeholders to interact with your business in a better way. As an example, you book an Uber. It's the experience that matters there. You get a cab and you reach an airport or a station, bus station. When it comes to an employee or a supplier, are we extending the same kind of experience to them when they have to, let's say an employee has to download his payroll statement, probably we have an outdated system there. So there is an opportunity for digital transformation there. And let's say when a partner wants to send you an invoice, do we have the right systems that the partner can do business with us easily? So there you have digital transformation. So to me, it's all about from the stakeholder theory, it's the experience of all critical stakeholders using technology. How do you elevate it to the next level? So I would like to probably conclude there.
Thanks, Sudheer. Lovely opening comments, so well kept. We've had from aligning to the CIO, CFOs, to securing the cloud journey, to something very fundamental, which you said. It's all about the experience, whether you use AI, ML, cloud. How do you employ your stakeholders, your investors, your customers? And how do you get the employees to have an Uber experience while getting to payroll? I love that line. And how do you ensure that your partners, when they put up an invoice to you, also get the same phenomenal experience which you get in the market? So thank you for your opening comments. Well said. Sudhir, now let's move on to Rahul. Rahul, from your perspective, you had a whole range from stakeholders to experience to cloud. Love to have your opening comments on the matter, Rahul.
Sure. So
Thanks,
I would like to, take comments from Mr. Jayram, Iyer, and also Mr. Sudheer, some of the comments that they made about understanding that we are aligned with the business. That's very important in our industry, in the data analytics industry. That's very critical. As IT, you can always keep building applications, but if they're not aligned with your business, they're of no use. One of the things which we are observing today is the need for agility. Most of the business users look for really fast solutions which they can experiment on some of their business needs, which could materialize or may not, but then getting a solution really fast, trying it out. If it doesn't work, let's try something else. And they want to work with IT really closely to get that done very fast. So the agility has to be introduced in the digital transformation so that business does not have to wait for a long time to get their results. And that's very critical. Ease of use is what Mr. Sudheer mentioned. That is also another critical factor for end users. They should not have to have difficulty being part of the digital transformation. So ease of use is very important. We see that in with a lot of our customers, where especially with new services in the cloud, where they're very easy to provision, easy to use, and that makes it attractive. Self-service is another area in digital transformation where business users want to try out things on their own. They don't have to wait for IT to deliver something in weeks or months and then see if it works or not. So self-service is, again, a very important aspect. And of course, adapting quickly to changing demands. I mean, today's customers, and given the competition, there is so much changing in the market continuously that your digital transformation has to be structured in a way that it can quickly adapt to these changing demands, and you should be able to deliver, make changes to your products, to your services, to your offerings in a really short time frame. So all these, in my opinion, are aspects which are necessary in digital transformation today.
Thank you, Rahul. You actually took a good clue from Jayram, Ankur, and Sudheer, and mentioned right from the building blocks aligned with business. IT can make a number of applications for the sake of it, but they have to align with the business. You also mentioned about the fail fast and agility, and the ease of use, self-service, and the last one, the ability to adapt quickly and transform fast. And according to you, these are the building blocks of having a good digital business transformation program. So very well said. Thank you for your comments, Rahul. Let me now go to my friend Mayank from Cisco. Mayank, Cisco empowers, enables, transforms so many of these digital transformations. Could you share us your comments on your opening comments, and what is your strategy on enabling business How do you go about it? Maybe and a few success stories which you can give as your opening comments, Mayank. Over to you.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, it was great to hear everyone. And the best part I liked about this particular discussion is that no one particularly mentioned that all this digital transformation is married to cloud. Okay. So in fact, I was thinking that I will ask on this forum that what is cloud native according to you? So and the good part is I've already got my answers. Like stuff like you are looking forward to collaborate. All the departments are talking to each other so that you can actually get the best out of it. Second aspect, you get the compliance and security which you need for your business. Third aspect, your experience is very, very important. Whether you're on-prem or on cloud, the business does not bother. They do not bother at all. If there's a downtime, they will hold you accountable, not the on-prem or the cloud OEM, correct? And lastly, the agility, the ease to provision the resources in a very short span of time. When the business tells you on the 2nd of this month, we are launching this project, I need the resources ready and up and running. So that is where the agility and the scaling up of business comes into picture. And that is where I feel the cloud native terminology came into the picture, because all these things were available on the public clouds initially. Now they have started extending those capabilities on-prem, but that is where the whole intent of the organizations are, that they look forward to an ecosystem which is supportive of the business, which gives a seamless experience, and which actually supports the business and not just a cost center to the business, which we actually discussed. So
Thanks, Mayank. Clearly, your opening comments, you were surprised that cloud, although one person does mention it. And I'll come to the next question on that. We all agreed on what business transformation should be from perspective of digital. Let's go on the enablers part. Let me ask my friend Sudheer. Sudheer, cloud obviously plays a very important part. Cloud is emerging as a game changer for business. It's already here. What are the main considerations you would have while selecting cloud computing technology? Do you choose, as a CIO, a single cloud, multi-cloud? What are design principles you do before you embark on a cloud-first journey? Sudheer?
I would first actually reword the question. Okay, cloud is not emerging; it's already an established game changer for me, and I'm like happy to say that we can move on to the established game changer and how do we evolve when the public cloud and the hybrid cloud and the distributed cloud will. I would see it as two periods. One is from the 2010 and before, and one is from 2010 and later, and recently from 2020 and later, the third period, where the last 2 years or so, I mean less than 2 years if you count, we had a prolonged pandemic. What we have seen is it has only strengthened the ascent of cloud computing. What I know myself personally is probably 2/3 of the businesses are already on cloud, and probably more than 90% of those 2/3 use multiple cloud services, and majority of them are multi-cloud as well. The thing that we probably now should be looking at is more than the enablers. I would say where cloud makes sense, where it doesn't make sense, it's like people figure it out naturally, organically, or they'll figure it out due to a cost pressure or due to a regulatory or compliance requirement. But overall, the cloud computing, the enabling factors, if you have to summarize, there are like 3 or 4 things. One is you have all your cloud infra, whether it's GCP, AWS, or Azure, the public cloud, or your private cloud, or your hybrid cloud players. All of them, you have to recognize the fact that they're growing. As a cloud business companies, they're growing probably at the same rate or more than the rate of around 33% annual growth. So that itself signals, the ascent of cloud. And there is this popular argument where people say, "Hey, if it isn't broke, there is no need to fix it." That's one of the ways where people kind of spend a lot of time on legacy systems. They utilize them to the maximum possible extent. It's kind of turning a blind eye or differing the problem. But the reality today is the easiest way that all of your panelists also echoed it in uh, a while back, that the easiest way to drive the digital transformation is almost, in every business, you can say this, almost in every business, in every market, the easiest way is adopting cloud for the ease of use, for the ease of scalability, the ease of availability, the ease of reach that it provides, and also the additional data and other services you get on cloud, whether it's marketing related services, whether it's your AdWords, whether it's your reach that you get into with markets. So all these are kind of giving us the economies of scale benefits that we suddenly started realizing, and that has just accelerated from 2020. Okay, I would broadly put it as, to summarize, for CIOs or whoever is making this consideration, I would broadly summarize it to very simple basic principle, right? What can be moved to cloud? Everything can be moved to cloud. And what is that everything? If there is a considerable refactoring and modernization involved in that, handle with care and move it to cloud. Or if there are like reasons to keep it back on premise because you can't refactor and modernize it, then let it be on premise, let it be a hybrid cloud situation. So I'll keep it very simple. What can be moved to cloud? Anything and everything. And just take care of your refactoring and modernization.
Thank you so much, Sudheer. Yeah, you're right. It's not happening. It's already happened for many companies. You did the 3 eras of before 2010, during, and then after 2020. 33% annual growth. If it's not broke, don't fix it. That won't work. Ease of affordability, reach, and you can move everything on the cloud, and if not, handle with care. Thank you so much for your comments. Let me ask Mr. Jayram. You heard Sudheer, but what are the building blocks, especially for a cloud movement, for a single cloud, for a multi-cloud, and how do you design a cloud journey for your company? And what's your advice to the fellow CIOs?
It's very interesting. I kind of completely echo with what Sudheer said for the journey to the cloud as such. That cloud is always there; it's ready. Okay, anything and everything about what can be moved, what cannot be moved. I agree, everything can be moved to the cloud. But then there is no fits all. It's very specific to every enterprise. And again, as I said, it goes back to these 3 cases. What are your strategic objectives? What are the business objectives? Okay, what are the commercial objectives? And what are the customer focused objectives for that year? And moving to the cloud, I mean, it entails a level of what I would call readiness and operational readiness too. So the operational readiness is something which many of the entities or enterprise that I had worked on were taking it quite lightly. To them, a cloud was more like a lift and shift model. It is not. There are a lot of considerations that has to go before you move to the cloud, right? I mean, if you are an organization which is you have the new age organizations which are very cloud native because they start directly on the cloud, but you have the legacy organizations. For legacy organizations, this journey can be quite painful also at times. And I'll tell you where it is. One is movement of legacy applications. Are they ready for the cloud? What does it take for them to be cloud? Does it require a platform re-architecture? Does it require an application level or a database level re-architecture? Because the way the cloud technologies work and your on-prem technologies work, they work a lot differently. And all of this has to be preserved because you cannot sacrifice availability and business continuity. So it needs a lot of careful preparation. There is no one size fits all thing for the cloud. You got to be ready. Skill sets. We know what has happened during the last 2 years. Skill sets. Acquiring skill sets, getting the right set of skill sets. Every organization's got to invest that. You got to have some kind of an organic plan within your entity or within your organization in developing skill sets to move to the cloud. There is going to be a pressures from, as a CTO or as a CIO, there will be constant pressure on costs because you got to beat the definite margins. So what kind of monitoring mechanisms you have in place? Okay, and the CIO dashboard has to change. It's very important. The CIO dashboard cannot be just uptime and availability anymore. It's also got to include the cost of servicing each and every business. Till the time you don't arrive at establishing what's the cost of servicing each line of business, whether it's a support, it's an enabling, whether it's a frontline function, those decisions become a lot difficult. So moving to the cloud, principally I agree, could be easy, but it has to be a very, again, I go back to those building blocks. Those building blocks are important. It's about how ready you are to the cloud. Or are you moving to the cloud just because you think it's the easiest thing to do right now? No, it is not. Okay. What kind of skill sets do you have? What's your plan to invest in those skill sets? Okay, to manage these. And every cloud environment is different. And Amazon is different. Your Azure is different. Okay, GCP is different. Got to acquire these, training these skill sets is very important. You got to also have strategic tie-ups with your cloud service providers and ongoing, what you call engagement model with them. That's when you see a good adaptation of cloud. And you also see, okay, that your resources are well utilized, and more importantly, that you're able to achieve the business objectives as such. That's my
Thank you, Jayram, for your comments. It's not a lift and shift model. There are operational challenges, a careful thought through approach. The CIO dashboard has to change. Only uptime won't be there as a good sort of parameter or metric. The cost to serve each business line is fundamentally important, and more, like you said, skill sets. Let me move to Mayank. Mayank, we had two great perceptions on the crowd. You as Cisco enabling the cloud journey. What are your thoughts when you advise a client to move on the cloud? What are the basic tenets? Jayram re-emphasized the building blocks. We had Sudheer mentioned that everything can be go on the cloud, nothing else. If only it's legacy or it can't be upgraded, keep it there, otherwise move it. What is your advice to CIOs when they begin the cloud journey? How do you get cloud first? Give us your thoughts, man.
So what I think is that the cloud is something which is influenced. I will not say exactly defined, but it is influenced by the departments. Okay, as everyone is agreeing to this fact that every cloud provider is having their own specialty, they're having their own solutions which get aligned to different departments. And now we see a lot of DevOps team playing an influential role in deciding the clouds. For example, they might tell you that I need to spin up some containers on maybe EKS or AKS. So I think that kind of technology presence is something which is changing, though it is now present on premises as well. But as Jayram also said, that skill set is a problem. Everyone is reluctant to create and manage a Kubernetes cluster on-prem, even though the on-prem infrastructure is having those CSI CNI plugins in place. But we have to take care of the skill set in place. Secondly, we have to ensure that the application teams are satisfied, the DevOps team are satisfied, and they do not complain of scaling with that kind of agility. So I think the most important aspect is we should let the business decide what technology and which business. Am I audible?
You are, yes, you are. Go ahead.
Okay.
You are. Go ahead.
So I think what I intend to say is that while the business and the CIOs should together decide which cloud suits them well, or for that matter, the legacy on-prem will fit them well. But the most important aspect is the operational efficiency. The day-to-day operations should not eat so much time that you're not able to innovate and focus on the business.
You're not audible.
We can hear him. We can hear him. We can hear loud and clear. We can hear. Thank you, Mayank, for your comments. Let me move to Ankur. Ankur, we've had the building blocks of cloud. We've had the digital transformation. A question to you, Ankur. While going on cloud, a big factor is of improved visibility. Can you emphasize your perspective on how does visibility play an important perspective, especially from a cybersecurity perspective? Improved visibility means improved security. Give me your thoughts on that point, Ankur.
Yeah. So I would just extend it from the points that Mr. Jayram and Mr. Sudheer made. I think two very important points there were around the skill sets and the analysis of applications that can be moved. And and where we can avoid the lift and shift, or if the lift and shift works for those applications. So when you talk about the cloud visibility, you want to understand how your cloud landscape looks like, how the overall security of that landscape looks like, of the infrastructure looks like. So some of those services, when you move them from on-prem to cloud, you have to think about whether you have people who can support those services, right? And whether those technologies are really designed for the cloud, or is just that we are forcing cloud on those technologies, right? Some of those technologies may not. So there were technologies which were running on our on-prem systems for decades, and they were not really designed to run across, say, commodity servers. You were running them on-prem on $1 million servers, but today when you are moving them onto cloud, these are smaller servers, ephemeral devices. Something can go down, something can come up, and you need to have a visibility across all of this infrastructure, what is going down, what is coming up, where the applications can tolerate the failovers, etc. Now, this is from where my company from the database space, but other companies in the other spaces as well are doing, is helping the customers where they can move those technologies into maybe new types of stacks, which are more suited for the cloud landscape, right? So if something goes down, you're prepared for that kind of an event, right? We talked about multi-cloud. We have seen capacity constraint issues across the cloud providers during the COVID times as well, right? Now, if one cloud provider is having a capacity issue, can you move your application easily to another cloud provider? Do you have that kind of flexibility? Does your overall IT initiative take that into account, right? These are the things from my perspective that I talk to CIOs about. They talk about these plans on what kind of applications are really suited for moving to the cloud, and where they can avoid some kind of a vendor lock-in into this, because they have burned their hands in the past. They have been stuck with the technology for 20-30 years and are paying high licensing costs into those technologies. They don't want to repeat the same mistake again and put all of their eggs into one basket, and suddenly their charges go up, right? They want to be competitive across all of these, and they want to make a balance between the cloud providers that they are using. So for me, cloud visibility is all of it. Yeah.
So thank you for that points. Let me go to Rahul. Rahul, we had comments from Ankur on visibility, but when you are sizing and planning and scaling for the cloud, what are the things you need to gather? Sometimes you over provision and you pay, or you under provision and then you have a scrambling of licenses. What is a good practice when you provision for a cloud? How do you decide the quantity? How do you plan in advance? You do just in time. Rahul, your comments on that?
Yeah, sure. So, see, capacity planning is an extremely important, exercise which has to be done not only on-prem but also in the cloud. On-prem we usually look at the nature of workloads. So I come from a data analytics platform company. So looking at the nature of the analytic workloads, number of users, concurrency, the volume of data you're processing, the velocity of data coming in, and accordingly seasonality is also a factor. Now, during a week or during a day, there could be changes in the demand of your systems. So looking at all that, yeah, there is an elaborate capacity planning done on-prem. A similar thing also has to be done in the cloud. Just because you have supposedly infinite resources available in the cloud does not mean that you don't do any capacity planning and you just increase or decrease as needed. Because as you increase capacity, but if you have not planned for it properly, you still have to pay for it. And we have seen customers where the costs spiral up so high because they have not really planned for the requisite capacity they need. So looking at what services you're going to deploy in the cloud, what are the workloads that these services are going to run, what kind of resources in terms of storage, in terms of object storage, SSD storage, or CPU, memory, network, all of these, what are the resources needed by these services, including your databases, including any other services that you have, and based on that, coming up with an upfront cost estimate. And that's extremely important in the cloud, especially because you're not paid upfront for the entire infrastructure like typically you do on-prem. So doing that cost analysis upfront is very important. And for that, you need inputs from various parties. You need inputs from the business, you need inputs from the end users, the variety of users you have. You could have data scientists, you could have business analysts, you could have any different number of users, types of users. Plus IT, of course, has and then finance, of course, they have to approve, what you're getting into. So that is an elaborate exercise which has to be done. Most people think that in the cloud the resources are infinite, but yes, but the budgets are not. So you have to plan it in terms of what you're going to pay for. We have seen customers where suddenly the cost becomes so high because they thought the costs were very low, but then they kept services running for a long time. They didn't plan for the sudden spike and so on. So even though the cloud provides lots of benefits in terms of giving flexibility, elasticity, but we still have to plan for the capacity upfront so that we don't get these shocks in terms of price. And of course, we can plan it according to our needs, right? And that's the advantages which the cloud gives us. So that effort has to be done very elaboratively.
Thank you, Rahul. I like the part where you mentioned seasonality has to be taken care of it. Resources are infinite, budgets are not. I love that saying. And don't get shocks. So good points. Thank you so much, especially from a scaling, from a planning. Just because in the cloud's available doesn't mean you don't plan well. Sudheer, life is very much about not what you do, but what you don't do. This strategy is very what you do not do. Could you tell the fellow CIOs on the call and on the panel and the audience, what are the 1, 2, or 3 precautions which you would have taken or heard of or yourself experienced of what not to do in a cloud journey?
Is it from a security perspective?
Overall, security, technology, as a CIO, what are 2 or 3 things? Security could be great if you can add 1 or 2, but overall, what not to do when you embark on a cloud journey?
Okay, so what not to do when you embark on a cloud journey is, there is, as one of the speaker was alluding to, there's a lot of that internet capacity which is not true. I will probably narrate it differently. So we had the situation where, again, the pre-2000 and post-2000, 2010. Pre-2000, we had the situation where you have a problem, whether it's a security problem or an operations problem, you throw people at it, right? And you solve it. And post-2010, it's like you throw more compute and resources and more capacity at it and solve the problem. So the cliche continues even today, even in the cloud era. What is happening overall is you have to actually have the most optimized, well-architected, engineered solutions, whether they're on-premise or cloud, hosted on your environment so that they use the resources optimally. This is what you should do. These 7 principles that developers are usually, when they design cloud, or developers or architects, when they design cloud, there are like some central principles. They remember, very fondly, that don't fear the constraints. Kind of cloud is infinite, and you get the storage you need, you get the compute you need, but they kind of breach all the other principles which apply to both cloud and on-premise architectures. Anyway, the fun part, the advantage of cloud computing is, the elasticity and the perspective is what to do is always look for cloud native enabled technologies, because they give you the best agility. We don't need to really think too much about it. The world has already moved in that direction. There are many companies slowly moving towards the direction. When in doubt, just follow where the industry is moving. So that is what to do. Use mostly the cloud native technologies for the most optimized cloud output. What not to do is, especially the wastage that happens on cloud computing environment. There is a lot of wastage. You design systems where you can assure that it will scale infinitely for a Black Friday or a Diwali sale, or you can say, hey, I have enough resources secured for my Diwali sale, but this costs me, more than what I'm going to get in return in sales on a Diwali day, right? So it is that kind of capacity planning rigor that CIOs and architects should have on ensuring the engineered products consume what they need to consume. And there are a few other principles, like you could totally go serverless if you have a very small team, an agile team that doesn't have all these capabilities. You can, echoing some of the concepts that were talked by the panelists, you can also go pretty much security first as a CIO, because security is a common shared concern. CISOs are not alone responsible for security. CIOs are as much responsible as CISOs. So it's architecture led, cloud native, serverless, and security first. So these are the four things that you should do. Wastage is what you should not do. You should eliminate wastage as much as possible.
Thank you, Sudheer. Eliminate wastage. Don't overbook for a Black Friday or a Diwali sale. The 7 principles, and you have a well-engineered and well-optimized solution. Thank you for that. You also mentioned about, quite twice, in fact, about the people aspect. And let me go to Rahul. Rahul, and even you alluded to that, the skills aspect. Skills to get in the market, but skilling yourself. How do we as CIOs and CISOs really skill to be able to talk the Kubernetes language, to talk the Docker language? How do we reskill ourselves and our teams below us? The buck starts with us, right? So what's your advice to CIOs?
Yeah, I think that's a very important aspect that you mentioned, Burgess, because we see that quite a lot in our own company, where we have to keep enhancing the skills to everything new that's coming our way. Now, when remember when open source and Hadoop were very popular, the landscape of that used to look so overwhelming with hundreds of different logos of different open source applications, and then it used to be difficult to decide what do I learn, what do I teach my teams, so that which is the hottest open source software today. A similar thing is happening because now we have multiple flavors of the cloud. Each cloud vendor has its own native services. There are different ways to achieve the same thing, different services. So we have a similar problem. How do I divide up the skills in my team so that I have people who can work in, for example, in AWS, they could also work in Azure, they could also work, and some could work in Google Cloud, and so on. It is not an easy problem to solve, because you might train people on a certain skill, but due to the nature of the demand, you may have to place them somewhere else, and then that skill cannot be used what you have trained them in. So I think it's a continuous process that we have to embed in our organizations, that we keep enabling at the various levels. Now, like a CIO need not have the hands-on technical knowledge, but what kind of skills, what kind of knowledge does the CIO need, so that he or she can take the right decisions for their organizations, can talk with the various stakeholders in the company and outside. What kind of enablement do the people one level below or two level below up to let's say a software developer or an administrator, what do they need? These enablement programs have to be built in. We try to at Teradata, we try to have that built in and take people through, as many people as we can, through these programs, so that we have a good pool of resources ready with these skills. Now, when those skills will be used, we don't know. Sometimes it could be a project specific for a customer need. Sometimes it could be for a specific internal project, which you can train people and then put them on that. However, the culture of making sure we are understanding new trends, new technologies, and then what is applicable to your business. We should not be chasing everything that's out there. That's impossible. But understanding and making a good evaluation with your teams as to what is important for our organization. If we decide that we are going to invest in the skill, what are the benefits of that skill to our organizations? What is the investment? And more importantly, if I have to hire from the market, will I get people with these skills? Or I can choose a skill or a specific technology for my IT infrastructure, but if I don't get people with the skills, I will not be able to deliver. So that's a constraint, the skills available in the market. Or if I have to grow them in-house, how long will it take? Will they become at the level of expertise that I need to be able to deliver my project. So these are things which have to be considered, and then it's a constant evaluation. It doesn't stop. We have to keep eyes on the market, on the demand, on the skills available in the market, as well as how can we enable our people fast enough to be able to deliver our project. So that it's a big function, and it has to be done in a, I would say it's a very specialized and focused function in which any organization needs to have.
Thank you. You can't chase everything is out there. Like the way you mentioned how you keep yourself and your team members updated. Anybody else wants to speak about a good practice to the other CIOs on how they keep themselves and their teams trained? I'll give you a small secret what I do. I tie up with Remia and other panel members and do one panel moderation every week. So when I get to ask the tough questions, I learn from you guys. And before a session, I prepare like it's a day and a half to get the questions and research on topics. So that's my secret. That's how I prepare, but it helps me a lot on a lighter note. But if anybody wants to speak about themselves, their journey on helping prepare on whether it's cloud or blockchain or tech, how do they get themselves and teams ready?
I think one interesting thing I do is let's say I'm an expert in AWS and I don't know anything about GCP, and an ops engineer is an expert go-to person for that. I go and sit next to him in a day, or probably during a couple of days or a week, and follow his work and try to understand, poke him and ask questions. Hey, tell what is the difference between the Cloud SQL and GCP and RDS in AWS. I kind of learn from observing their work and asking them questions. So that's a great tool. You can also understand other problems that they're facing, frictions and information asymmetry and other problems that will pop up while you're talking to your team members. So that's a wonderful strategy I've seen my leaders doing, and I also do that very frequently.
Sitting with the hands-on guys is great. Thank you. From a Cisco perspective, Mayank, how do you ensure that you are guys who are serving the cloud providers and the other people, how are you retaining your top talents?
So with Cisco, we have our own agnostic platforms, thankfully. So we leverage those platforms so that we do not have to learn different tools and different native technologies. So that is where we actually are kind of in a easy situation, wherein we leverage both hybrid on-prem as well as public clouds.
Thank you. As we come towards the end, one last question for each of you, your closing comments. We had great opening comments. From there, we went to capacity, we went to building blocks, we went to strategy, we went to cost, we went to scheduling, security, skills. Next year, same place, same time, same seminar. What would be the discussion on the same topic, tackling digital business transformation? Would we talk cloud? What would be success factor to get there? Looking at hindsight, what would be your thoughts as you crystal gaze in the future? What will be a topic of discussion next year, same time, same place? And Mayank, you can start.
Yeah. So in fact, Burgess, I had prepared something. If everyone is okay, can I just steal 10 minutes for this forum?
Please.
Because
you want everyone to finish and then get your comments so that
yeah,
they can
that would be a better approach.
You'll get that. Yeah.
That
Okay, so I'll take you to Rahul. Same place, same time next year. What would be your vision of the future?
I think I'll ask, what benefits you have gained in your digital transformation journey from a business perspective. And that I would encourage that you put in the measurement, metrics measurement upfront as to if I'm going through this digital transformation journey and I'm going to invest so much in terms of skills, in terms of infrastructure, how do I measure the success? How do I measure the business value that we got? And I'm sure the CIO is going to ask this question that, okay, great, your organization has delivered so much, but then how do you justify it from a business perspective? And I think that putting that in place upfront is very important, because in the end, the business users are going to say, yes, we moved to the cloud, we have all these new services, great. But then did it help us in our objectives, and how did it help that? So that together with the business, that I think monitoring mechanism and measurement has to be put in place. So I would ask that question, was that put in place, and what were the benefits, and what are the lessons? Because it is a journey. It's not going to be perfect the first time in 1 year. What are the lessons, and what would you do different going forward? That's what I would ask.
Thank you, Rahul. Good questions. What are the journey? What are the lessons? And what importantly would you do different next year? What will you learn from seminars like these, where people have said they have told their mistakes transparently and learned what not to do, as Sudheer mentioned. So, Sudheer, over to you. Thank you so much, Rahul, for your comments. Sudheer, same place, same time, crystal gaze in the future.
I think we'll not be talking about cloud adoption, but I'll probably foresee that we'll be talking about some new regulations that are going to impact the computing. It could be, things like how do we preserve the privacy of our customers? It's privacy preserving computing. How do we comply with regulations at the same time move fast in our business, right? There is a NSI in US, which is putting standards for the businesses on how to do computing. Similarly, we'll have emerging standards, in my view, across the world. And then you'll have a lot of, total experience, this whole new term that it's not just about customers, it's also about your employees who are like leaving like never before. Employees experience matters, and it's a total experience, customer experience, your multi experience, your user experience, your stakeholder experience. That's going to be the priority of all business leaders. I think technology will enable most of the business problems to reach a solution. Technology will help them. So business will shift focus to the experience more and more. So I would like sum it up as total experience, privacy preserving ways of doing computing, the regulation and its impact on how you do cloud computing or on-premise, where you store your data and where the residency of data is. And probably we'll have better computing, faster computing, parallelization, new techniques coming in the cloud. We'll lead a better world.
As we say, a better working world and a better, safer working world. So thank you, Sudheer, for your closing comments. As I said, talk about new regulations, privacy, lessons learned. Thank you, Sudheer. We all hope to have a better working world for us. From that, I'd like to go to Ankur. Ankur, your closing comments as you crystal gaze in the future. Thanks, Sudheer.
Thank you. Thanks, Burgess. I think this was a great session, first of all, and we got to learn multiple perspectives and from the leaders, how they think about cloud. From my side, I think there are two things that I want to talk about as final comments. One, that going forward, multi-cloud will become even more important. I believe that it is a Swiss knife that is still unexplored, and it has tremendous capabilities, because once you'll have, there will be people there will be intense competition within the cloud providers as well, and they will have differentiated services, and the CIOs will be thinking of working alongside these cloud providers, and with less pain, how they can build services which work across multiple clouds, and how they can ensure that their applications are not stuck on one. The other thing is where the traditional and highly sensitive industries like banking and telcos, they are still not that in cloud, right? They are still thinking, they have different kind of security constraints which are perhaps not which have perhaps not been met yet. So they will be there will be more developments in that area. Things like encryption will go even further, and that will allow banks to take their workloads onto clouds or hybrid cloud type scenarios, right? So I think these two will be the top things. You're on mute.
Thank you so much, Ankur. Lovely closing comments. Swiss knife, which has not yet been utilized completely. We're surprised banking and telecom are very much going to the cloud very aggressively. In fact, banking with 5G, Open RAN, and telecom now, Open RAN and 5G are going in the cloud. The biggest use case for 5G is outside telecom, as companies go private 5G network. So again, Ramya, discussion for the next time. But thank you so much, Ankur, for your lovely comments. I love the Swiss knife, which can be better utilized, and that's cloud. Let me go to Mr. Jayram. Sir, you started, you end. Your lovely comments to close the future.
I mean, this has been a wonderful panelist. I kind of agree with Sudheer, Rahul, and Ankur on what they had to say. And mine would just be an addition to it, and maybe while they spoke at a macro level, mine would be at a little at a micro level. What I would love to see is multi-cloud. Yes, that's going to be a very interesting area next, and we are all looking forward to the multi-cloud environment as such. But with multi-cloud, also the key challenges that we would like to speak about, and which is what I foresee in the future, would be identity and access management, configuration management, security. It's going to be fun, really challenging, these areas. And considering that when you're going to the cloud, everyone's going to be adopting cloud native applications. Okay, this particular area is going to be very, very interesting to work with. And I believe Cisco is working a lot in this area, along with other partners. That's one. Second area which I would like to, I think which would happen is most of the organizations will have to come up with what I would call as a cloud usage policy. Each of the organizations, whoever are moving on to because this cloud usage policy is going to be very, very important, I believe, because it would cover the complete aspects of the cloud process for each of the organization, which could include financial controls, which could also include, as someone said, about resource quota policies. Because like what Sudheer said sometime, you can't be spending a lot and you have to be mindful of where you are spending. So you might have, and we are already seeing that happening, where each of the business or each of my even engineering teams, okay, I ask them to give me their anticipated loads for the next quarter. And we do the provisioning in line with the anticipated loads which is coming in there. Okay. So a cloud usage policy would be very, very interesting, and I think that's one or another thing which we'd like to definitely look around. In short, I would say multi-cloud environment is going to be very, very interesting and challenging, and that's the way where most of the organizations are going to. Hybrid will stay for a while. It will definitely stay for a while, especially in industries like banking and where data privacy is of paramount importance. And even data privacy, we are seeing the change with the Indian laws on data privacy. It's still a little opaque. The law that came in last year, that's still being challenged across, I mean, by multiple companies. What concept data privacy, whether data is going to be placed of the data, what can be where, and also the challenge on protecting PII. So I think these are all the topics we may probably be discussing up the line.
Burgess, you're on mute.
Thank you. Sudheer, Ankur, Rahul, any closing comments before we give it off to Mayank? No, I'm unmuted now. Ankur, Sudheer, and Rahul, any comments before we give it off to Mayank?
This was a great session. Thanks for the invite, Burgess and Ramya. Really enjoyed all the, listening to all the speakers, and it was very educational for me also. Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all. Yeah, thank you all. No comments. We're waiting for, Mayank's session now. Yeah.
Mayank, over to you. Thank you.
All right, so I'm gonna share. How much time do I have, Burgess?
I guess 10 minutes, 8 to 10 minutes is what I was told that.
More than enough.
5:15 you're going to close, but you can take till 5:20.
Yeah. So I just wanted to share something, and I think Cisco should not have done this survey, because whatever you all shared, I think it's evident in the screen. We did this survey across 2,500 customers across 13 countries, and that is what all 4 of us resonated right now. So Cisco could have saved a lot of dollars by avoiding that survey. So actually, the survey also said the same thing, that while we are having different types of clouds, right, from traditional IT, wherein we used to have single application hosted on a single physical server running inside the headquarters of an organization. Now we are talking about fog computing, we're talking about distributed clouds, we're talking about cloud native environments. But hybrid cloud and multi-cloud will be the de facto models. Okay, and already 79% of the customers were having a hybrid cloud approach, wherein they were using both on-prem as well as public clouds. And in fact, 58% of those customers keep on moving their workloads between on-prem and public clouds. And 76% of these customers are actually using more than one cloud. Okay. So talking about the concerns, so while the cloud adoption has increased, the concerns also increased because the environments become different. So I think security is definitely the topmost concern, wherein the cybersecurity threats have increased by more than 500% in the past 2 years. Secondly, the operational complexity with each cloud comes their own native tools, which again the problem which everyone pointed out, skill set is very, very important. So the teams should be up to the mark. They should be able to learn the new tools well in time. And definitely, if you have to talk about the last aspect, cost is something which is beyond our control. There have been instances wherein a user will spin off a EC2 instance and then he'll log off, but he'll forget that EC2 instance is being run in the background. And that is where everyone also agreed to this point. So I'm really surprised to see that whatever we discussed is actually captured over here in the slide. So you all mentioned that a collaboration is required wherein all the departments talk to each other, they come on the same page and they anticipate the cost, they decide on the capacity planning, etc. So what now? So there are three major aspects which I think Cisco can help. Number one, can we make on-prem as attractive as the public clouds? Number two, can we connect and operate across these multiple clouds and on-prem in an optimized manner so that we have a single pane of operations for optimization as well? And number three, how do we support the innovation which our DevOps team or our business is expecting from us to innovate on a day-to-day basis? Now that is where Cisco can actually help you into that. From a conventional approach, if you must have heard, when the era of public cloud adoption was very less, I should say pre-pandemic, we used to hear from the OEMs that you can lift and shift your on-prem data center to your public cloud. You might have to buy a VCF license on-prem, VMC on public cloud, and then you can do it. Okay, but your concern is that if you're paying to the clouds for the guaranteed SLA, you're not bothered about the licensing which they're using. They might be using open source. It does not matter. What you want is a guaranteed SLA. So you should not pay for that license. Similarly, vice versa, AWS might tell you if you want to come from public cloud to on-prem, why don't you go for AWS Outpost? Okay. So these are the conventional approaches. What Cisco says is you keep on running your business as usual. If you're running AWS for one department, Azure for your sales department, doesn't matter. If you're running your customer data in your premises, doesn't matter. You keep your business as usual and will give you a single unified experience across your entire hybrid cloud. Okay, so when I talk about unified platform experience, there's just only one pane of operations, which is known as Cisco Intersight. It is a SaaS-based operating platform, which actually is a single pane of glass right from your network to your compute, to your SAN switches, to your storage. And it is not a monitoring tool. It is more of a visibility tool. It is more of an observability tool, wherein you can not just monitor, but also configure, operate, and orchestrate across your entire infrastructure, whether on-prem or public clouds. Okay, so a lot of customers initially thought that Cisco, when that era of switches used to be there a few years ago, it used to be thought that Cisco might bind you in your technology, but now things have changed a lot. Okay, and that is why we are here or to offer you a cloud neutral approach, and that is possible because we've been working with all these technology partners for decades now, and this particular Cisco Intersight is having an open and interoperable API driven approach. Okay, so this particular Cisco Intersight is a SaaS based platform, as I said, and it is applicable for all three layers, right from infrastructure to the workloads to the public clouds. And rather than going into the details, I just cover the use cases so that you get a gist of it. You are able to relate to what you actually do in your day-to-day life. The first and foremost use case is if you want to build your cloud-ready environment, if you want to build an infrastructure which needs to be based on-prem, which needs to be on edge locations or on premises, and if you want to manage it from your SaaS-based platform, you can do that. Number two, if you want to operate your hybrid cloud, as I said, a single pane for your existing public clouds as well as existing on-prem, and then you want to optimize your performance efficiency and cost. Again, Intersight is a single point of contact for you. And thirdly, if you want to run tools like Terraform, if you want to run Kubernetes clusters on-prem, or for that matter, if you want to integrate the Kubernetes clusters of public clouds through a single console, you can actually do it using Intersight. So what I've done is to make it very simple, I've actually captured these three use cases in a pictorial representation. The first and foremost is while we are having on-prem, so in this particular example, we have 4 different environments. One is the edge location. The second is the core data center. Third is AWS. Fourth is Azure. Okay. Now, the first and foremost important aspect is we get a common networking policy model. Okay. While the compute and the storage have simplified using HCI, the networks are becoming more complex, and the network team is still the same. Earlier, there used to be 2 people. Now there are also 2 people. But the network complexities have increased. Even if there is a new application which has to be launched, if you're updating the application, the network policies have to be replicated on each environment. Okay. So what Cisco Intersight Infrastructure Services does is basically give you a single common policy model across your entire hybrid cloud, be it your on-prem, be it your AWS, be it your Azure, be it your GCP. Okay. Now this is the first aspect. The second aspect is if you want to build a private cloud for yourself, if you are coming up with a small office or a small plant or a small location wherein you do not have a dedicated resource, you do not want that to be managed day in and day out, you can go for a 2-node HCI. Okay, for that matter, in your data center, if you want to deploy mission critical applications or general purpose applications or databases, you can go for a typical classic HCI, or for that matter, rack servers or blade servers or a converged infrastructure. Okay, and all these particular hardware will be run on top of VMware and Kubernetes. So this is the first use case wherein you build your own cloud-ready infrastructure, and this is entirely managed through Cisco Intersight Infrastructure Services. Okay. Now comes the second use case: operate the hybrid cloud. Now what we have done is we have simply put a yellow layer which is known as AI-based optimization, and this is true for your Dell servers, your HP servers, your Lenovo servers, your VMware, your Hyper-V, your Red Hat, your AWS, or Azure. So it's a totally platform agnostic pane of operations, which optimizes your performance, efficiency, and cost. So we actually discussed about flexibility to move between different clouds. We talked about flexibility to move from maybe one cloud to on-prem or on-prem to one cloud, to compare the cost without actually paying to the cloud providers. So this particular tool can actually help you do that without spending onto the public clouds. Okay, so that you take an informed decision. No longer you have to do lift and shift approach. This particular tool will help you go for a cloud optimized approach, which will help you take an informed decision and does not get the money out of your wallets on day one. The third use case is accelerate cloud native. Remember, we discussed about what if you get the latest technologies on-prem. Will you be ready to actually move your public workloads on-prem? Now that is something that an option will open for you. It is totally up to you. We do not tell you that you have to move that for Intersight to work. No, it is just giving you an option. So if you notice over here, this Kubernetes is having a slash called KVM. So what we believe is that if you want to create a Kubernetes cluster on-prem, while VMware will tell you that you need Tanzu over VMware, what we'll tell you is you just take our KVM-based hypervisor, which is free of cost, and create a Kubernetes cluster on-prem, and then integrate with your existing EKS or AKS. That will again add to your flexibility of changing your public clouds. As of now, you create a test bed on your AKS or EKS, and once you create an application on a platform of a cloud, it is not possible, it is not easy for you to migrate from one cloud to the other. So this particular Kubernetes services module will help you create an agnostic Kubernetes cluster, and then you can move it to any of your public clouds, be it AKS, EKS, or GKE. Right. Lastly, you can also empower Terraform. So nowadays, a lot of DevOps engineers are Terraform certified. Terraform is an infrastructure provisioning tool, while companies have been using Ansible, Chef, Puppet for quite some time. These are configuration management tools, but Terraform is an infrastructure as a code. It's more of an automation tool which is having integration with 1,000+ providers. So while Terraform cannot be used on premises, Intersight gives you the flexibility to use Terraform on premises as well. So you can actually think of using Terraform as network as a code. Okay, so you can have a single pane for your Terraform as well, and it is all supported by Cisco itself. So these were the 3 different use cases which I wanted to cover in a very short form. So if time allows, I would be more than happy to give you the look and feel of the console, or otherwise we can connect later on as well. Any doubts, any thoughts, comments, feedback?
Joining us, and I hope it was a wonderful session. Definitely an insightful one for all of us.
Yes, it was.